welcome to Dialogue. As one of the first European countries to enter the Chinese market, Belgium has enjoyed a long cooperative partnership with China. As new challenges continue to rise in today's evolving geopolitical landscape, the importance of mutual trust and cooperation has never been more crucial. What is the state of China-Belgium relations today? What does China's modernization process mean for Belgium and Europe? And how can multilateralism help address the growing global challenges we face today? To answer these questions, I sat down with Yves Le Dam, former Prime Minister of Belgium. That's our topic. I'm Xu Qinduo.
Yves-Camille Désiré Le Terme served as Prime Minister of Belgium from March 2008 to December 2008, and later from November 2009 to December 2011. He later became Deputy Secretary General of the OECD 2011 to 2014, where he focused on advancing global economic cooperation and sustainable development. A strong advocate for EU-China collaboration, Le Terme has praised China's progress, stating, "This really remarkable economic miracle that China achieved gives lots of opportunities for Chinese businesses and people." He has also highlighted the importance of initiatives like the Belt and Road and emphasized Belgium's key trade and infrastructure ties with China.
Prime Minister Yves Le Dam, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You have been visiting China for more than 20 times over the past 20 years. And I mean, safe to say you are very familiar with the Chinese economic development, the Chinese system. Could you share with us your understanding of China over the development over the past decades?
Well, first of all, I think that what strikes us as Westerners, witnessing the unprecedented social and economic development, is, of course, the speed, the pace at which China has been opening up, reforming, and delivering results. For all kinds of reasons, in very complex modern societies, decision-making and implementing decisions is not so easy, takes time, is very cumbersome in terms of rules and regulations. And in one way or another, you managed, as China, to very rapidly re-enter world's history, re-enter the global market economy, and to have a development from a predominantly rural agriculture society to an industrial society, and now cutting-edge technology-driven information society. And so this very rapid process of the last 40, 50 years, I think the speed at which this has been evolving, this is for me one of the most striking compared to our mature economies, where things go step by step and a bit of muddling through and trying to keep what we have and improve it. This is a kind of different scheme.
Mm-hmm. We have been seeing recently the Chinese documents, official announcement of basically committing to carrying through the reform, to wherever it needs, and also further opening up the country, removing restrictions, investing in the manufacturing sector, visa-free treatment for people from many nations. How do you look at the recent moves?
I think China is facing, to a certain extent, now the challenge to continue to deliver added value in terms of policy making, in terms of policy delivering, and socio-economic progress in a more quality-driven and quality-based manner. I mean, we've been used, and it was really very impressive, to double-digit economic growth. Of course, this was also because of the reason that the volume based on which this economic growth was added on a yearly basis, this was a very limited volume. And so double-digit growth added value, very fast-growing economy, but at a certain moment you have to make this development more sustainable in the long run, in the long term. And so this means a lower economic growth, of course still very high compared to our economies, but it means also that given the lower pace of growth, you have to adapt your other policies in terms of output, in terms of social protection, in terms of coping with the volatility of the global economy, being a very export-oriented nation until now. And so I think that the political leadership in China, based on the documents I can read and the figures, the facts, the reality we witness, is really addressing the issues confronting the Chinese economy, with problems in the real estate sector, with the issue of finding decent jobs for the whole of the population, including the younger generations. And I think that in that framework, the resolutions, the decisions taken by the third plenary of the 20th Central Committee, I think it was in July this year, that these 250, 300 concrete decisions, measures that were decided, they have the intention to strengthen the economic performance, to address the issues, to address the problems. And so I think it's the right answer to a problem which is related to the transition from the very rapid transition from an agriculture, rural to an industrial, and then to a cutting-edge, high technology-driven, quality-driven economy.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on to take a look at this relationship between China and Belgium, your country there. There's a delegation earlier this year, and the Belgium side basically said, I quote, "We certainly do not advocate isolationism. The last thing we should do at difficult times is turn our back on China. We should do the opposite. Remain open to doing business and remain open to political conversations." At the same time, we are seeing China trying to build basically a closer relationship with Belgium and the EU at large. Of course, this is happening, against a larger background of, de-risking, decoupling, great uncertainty, great changes. What do you make of these remarks? What do you make of these interaction between the two sides?
I think what we are experiencing now is the world that is adapting to the new reality of the need to share power, to share potential economic growth and socio-economic progress. And you have the incumbent powers that have been over the centuries and centuries building up their wealth, building up their welfare, taking positions worldwide, economic and also political positions, military positions. And then you have China re-entering the history of the globe, the world's history. And so there's a need to reset, to adapt to that new reality. What we are living through now, as you rightly phrase them as a kind of challenges of today, defensive reactions, the call for protectionism, I would hope that this is only a transitional period where indeed Western powers now have to adapt to the new realities, but are facing frustration, sometimes anger of populations that see that increased competition means changes, means, for instance, to be very concrete, that the jobs they have, that they will change because of technological development, but also because a kind of new distribution of roles, economically speaking, with other economies, where parts of the activity will be done by other people in other countries, and their jobs will be replaced by others. The point is to keep up the strong belief that with a world economy, a global economy that is faring well, with increased development, socio-economic progress, and increased purchasing power in more countries worldwide, including, of course, China, that the demand for products and services will continue to grow, and that the fact that jobs are lost in one or another sector, that this is only part of the story of transitioning to other kind of activities. The most important element being that globally we set up a framework where economies can thrive well and can continue to deliver economic growth for their populations, so that the purchasing power, the demand for products and goods and services continues to grow. And then, of course, the key is to produce them in a sustainable way.
And it seems like, as a response to the rise of China, there's concern, there's fear, there's, the change of policies, the decoupling or tariffs, or export restrictions. How do you look at those responses? You know, do you think there's a lack of understanding, like what China represents or what China will do?
I think it's a mixed picture. First of all, I would like to underline that I agree to a certain extent with the need to de-risk in terms of supply chains, in terms of preserving, defending the vital interests, sovereignty of countries. I don't agree with decoupling. I think it's no interest of the population that we have different systems, information systems, and that we decouple. If it would be possible, I don't think it's a positive development or positive objective to just decouple the economies. But I think to a certain extent that it is a normal reaction where you have defensive initiatives by the people that have built up their wealth, and then having a new entrant that wants to take the place, that wants to be part of the story. And China tries to regain its positions in global development and global activities in a very peaceful way. Is also a very constructive partner in building, strengthening the multilateral system. It is important that we stick to our commitment to the rule of law, to a rules-based multilateral cooperation. And so it is important that China would stay a very solid and strong partner. The European Union is. I would hope that the US would be more than it seems to be the case in the next months under the Trump administration. But it is of crucial importance that we work on that we strengthen again the capacity of the global community to have a coexistence, peaceful coexistence based on rules, and rules that are applied and to which all nations finally obey. That's the basis of the multilateral system. My nation Belgium is a mid-sized country, has been the founding father of the bigger multilateral institutions, the most important multilateral institutions that were built up since the Second World War. There is a need to adapt them. It's very clear that they are not fit for purpose for the challenges we are facing now. There is also a need to rebalance power within these multilateral institutions.
Mm-hmm. We'll speak of that. Where are we now in terms of China-EU relationship, trade ties, economic relationship, and also political ties here?
In terms of economic relations, I think that the European Union currently is trying to put its acts together in how it should answer the challenge of a very fierce competition from high quality, underestimated products and services coming from China. China has been, until recently, kind of the factory of the globe, and we imported lots of products at a cheap price from China, but they were not endangering our positions in the cutting-edge technology related products, services, and markets. Now we see that China, based on its own merit, has developed services, is developing services and technologies that are able to compete with our best products. And that's good. It's good that we have that competition.
More choices.
A fair competition is excellent, but for us, there's a need to adapt to the pace of development, adapt also to the volume you represent in terms of citizens, in terms of market power. And so I think the European Union, the new Commission now has to finish its work in terms of defending our interests, which is, one of the core elements of its duties. But what I would hope is that we very rapidly now can go to a more constructive agenda for the EU-China relations, where we maybe try to see what should happen to protect investment mutually, reopen markets that have been closed, open new possibilities of economic exchange in terms of goods and services, tendering possibilities from both sides, participating in tenders for companies. The work that was blocked at a certain moment to strike a new deal in terms of the comprehensive agreement on investment protection. I think all this should be put together in a constructive agenda where, beyond the general wording of declarations that have concluded some meetings, bilateral meetings over the last years between the EU and China, where this can now be translated in concrete decisions to improve our cooperation. And I think that China has given good examples. For instance, your recent decision to give the possibility to 50,000 young people to come to experience China, to travel to China and to learn to know China better. I think the visa liberalization you decided is a very important positive token. The willingness also of very important Chinese companies to develop the workforce of their subsidiaries in Europe, to have, for instance, cars assembled in Europe, to invest in labor force, in activity in Europe, not only to ship goods to Europe, but also to produce them in Europe. These are positive signs, and I would hope that this creates let's say, a critical mass of political will that can lead to a positive, constructive agenda of cooperation between the EU and China.
Thank you, Prime Minister Le Tan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for speaking with us.